Business Administration. Today we will be talking about research methodology for management decisions, that is MMPC 015. We will be continuing with Block 3, that is Unit 10, multivariate analysis of data. Univariate analysis forms the foundation for the development of multivariate analysis. And univariate analysis has already been discussed in MMPC 005, that is quantitative analysis for managerial decisions. Description and analysis of associative data involves studying the relationship and degree of association among several variables, and therefore multivariate procedure becomes imperative. Here we will discuss with three multivariate techniques, that is regression analysis, discriminant analysis, and factor analysis. Regression analysis finds out the degree of relationship between a dependent variable and a set of independent variables by fitting a statistical equation through the method of least square. For example, demand may be influenced not only by price but also by the growth in industrial production, the extent of import prices of other goods, consumers' income, taste and preferences, etc. Discriminant analysis is useful in situations where a total sample could be classified into two mutually exclusive and exhaustive groups on the basis of a set of predictor variables. Unlike the regression analysis, these predictor variables need to be independent. For example, one may wish to predict whether sales potential in a particular marketing territory will be good or bad based on the territory's personal disposal income, population density, and number of retail outlets. Factor analysis provides an approach that reduces a set of variables into one or more underlying variables. The technique groups together those variables that seems to belong to other and simultaneously supplies the weighing scheme. For example, one may be interested in the identification of factors that become the company's image. Regression analysis. Regression analysis is probably the most widely applied technique among the analytical models of association used in business research. Regression analysis attempts to study the relationship between a dependent variable and a set of independent variables, which can be one or more. The multiple linear regressions model is the prototype of a single criteria, multiple predictor association models where we would like to study the combined influence of several independent variables upon one dependent variable. The objective of business research is in using regression analysis are to study a general underlying pattern connecting the dependent variable and independent variables by establishing a functional relationship between the two. Second one, it can be used to a well-established regression equation for problems involving prediction and forecasting. Thirdly, to study how much of the variation in the dependent variable is explained by the set of independent variables. This would enable him to remove certain unwanted variables from the system. In general, the simple linear regression model equation is given by y is equal to beta naught plus beta 1 x1 plus epsilon, where y is the dependent variable, x1 is an independent variable, epsilon is a random error term, and beta naught and beta 1 are the regression coefficients which needs to be estimated. What are the assumptions for the model? The relationship between y and xi is linear. Y is a random variable which follows a normal distribution from which sample values are drawn independently. X1 is fixed and is non-stochastic, that means it's not random. The means of these normal distribution of y as conditioned by xi lies on a straight line with slope beta 1. Discriminant analysis. Discriminant analysis is a useful tool for situations where the total sample is to be divided into two or more mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive groups on the basis of a set of predictor variables. For example, a problem involving classifying salespeople into successful and unsuccessful, classifying customers into owners or non-owners of the videotape recorder are examples of discriminant analysis. What are the objectives of two-group discriminant analysis? Finding linear composites of the predictor variable that enables the analyst to separate the groups by maximizing among groups relative to within group variation and establishing procedures for assigning new individuals whose profiles but not group identify are known to one of the two groups. Thirdly, testing whether significant difference exists between the mean predictor variable profiles of the two groups. And fourthly, determining which variable account most for intergroup differences in mean profiles. Factor analysis. It is a generic name given to a class of techniques whose purpose is data reduction and summarization. Very often, market researchers are overwhelmed by the plethora of data. Factor analysis comes to the rescue in reducing the number of variables. Factor analysis does not entail partitioning the data matrix into criteria and predictor subsets. Rather, interest is centered on relationship amongst the whole set of variables. In factor analysis, the analyst is interested in examining the strength of the overall association among variables in the sense that he would like to account for this association in terms of a smaller set of linear composites of the original variables that preserve most of the information in the full dataset. No attempt is made to divide the variables into criteria versus prediction sets, and the models are primarily based on linear relationships. Factor analysis is a search technique. The researcher designs maker does not typically have a clear priority structure of the number of factors to be identified. Cutoff points with respect to stopping rules for the analysis are often ad hoc as the output becomes available. Even where the procedures and rules are stimulated in advance, the results are more descriptive than inferential. The procedure involved in the computation of factor analysis is extremely complicated and cannot be carried out effectively without the help of a computer. Packages like SPSS, SAS, and biomedical programs, that is BMD, can be used to analyze various combinations leading to factor prediction. Now we move on to block 4, that is report writing and presentation, which includes 4 units, unit 11, 12, 13, and 14, which are related to ethics in research, substance of reports, formats of report, and presentation of the report. Whatever we have understood, whatever we have found, now has to be presented in a very ethical manner. Now, what are the ethics? What are the ethics which we have to follow in research? Ethics are the standards or the norms of behavior which guide the moral choice amongst relationship and behaviors concerning others. Ethics in research aims to ensure that nobody is suffering or harmed from the research activity and its consequences. Surveys continually reveals that financial organizations recognize ethics as a problem. Responsible research anticipates ethical difficulties and attempt to modify the configuration. procedures, and guidelines during the planning procedure rather than after the fact. Integrity from the researcher, project manager, and research sponsor is needed for ethics in research. Research ethics control the code of behavior for research scientists. It acts as a reference for conducting research responsibly. Human subjects or contributors are involved in the study, raising unique and multidimensional ethical, legal, communal, and managerial concerns. What are the principles of research ethics? Honesty is termed to be truthful with recipients and participants and honest about the study results and research methods. Being truthful with the other stakeholders, both directly and indirectly. Integrity. This means assuring sincerity and truthfulness and keeping promises and agreements, making no broken promises or raise unrealistic hopes. Objectivity. Attempting to avoid bias in experimental design, data analysis, interpretation of data, critical analysis, and other data analysis aspects. Informed consent. Informed consent happens when a person is permitted to participate in a study intentionally, voluntarily, and sensibly. Informed consent is linked to the individual's personal independent right to participate in research. By phrase, this refers to maximizing the respondent's benefits, a moral acceptable obligation to maximize potential benefits and minimize possible harm to participants. Next one is protecting the subject. This means minimizing the research risk or harm. Privacy and autonomy needs to be maintained. Responsible publication. The publication need to be the responsible ones, where there is no duplication or plagiarism. Confidentiality. Keeping confidential information and personal records protected. It contains information such as the research initiation and goal, the decisions goal, discussion goals, and the research procedures. Non-discrimination. Avoid discrimination based on age, caste, sex, religion, race, or ethnicity. Everyone should be treated as equal and there should not be any human rights violation. Openness. The researcher should be open to getting feedback, comments, or suggestions. Carefulness and respect for intellectual property. Be cautious of potential errors and biases. Give credit to others' intellectual property. When referring to someone else's article or writing, always paraphrase. What are the advantages of research ethics? The goal of the research are encouraged by research ethics. It builds trust between both the researcher and the respondent. To safeguard study participation, dignity, rights, and well-being, it is critical to follow ethical principles. For their behavior, scientists can be made responsible and answerable. Ethics encourage the development of social and moral values. What are the limitations of risk and research ethics? Psychological risk. The questionnaire given to the respondents should create a change in the behavior of the participants. Social, legal, and economic risk. For example, respondents may face decisions and stigma if personal information gathered during the research is accidentally released. Certain ethnic or indigenous group may experience discrimination or stigma due to research, especially if members of these groups are identified as having a higher than usual risk of catching a specific disease. What are research misconducts? Fabrication. This refers to creating a fake data for getting the adequate result. The data collected should be from genuine sources and the respondent should have agreed to provide the responses. Falsification. This means the researcher should create false research according to his or her wish. The research needs to create more impact on the society. Plagiarism. This refers to copying the text or pictures from some article which are already published and have copyright. It should be avoided as this may lead to legal issues for the researcher. This has to be kept in mind everywhere. Now we move to Unit 12, which includes what are the substances of reports. Report writing is common in both academic and managerial situations. In academics, reports are used for comprehensive and application oriented learning. Students' reports are called term paper, project reports, thesis, and dissertations, depending on the nature of the report, the time and effort expected of the student, and the curricular design. In organizations, reports form the basis for the decision making. These reports are expected to be brief but comprehensive and reflects the thinking of the manager, the management committee, or the consulting group that has been given the terms of reference for fact finding or decision making. Proposal. Preparation of reports is time consuming and expensive. Therefore, reports have to be very sharply focused on purpose, content, and readership. And to control the final outcome of the product, that is the report, it is often preceded by a proposal and its acceptance or modification, and periodic interim reports and their acceptance or modification by the sponsor. A proposal gives information on the following items. We will consider this for our project work also. We have to, as far as the university norms, you have a project component with you. And in project, before you have to make a project proposal. So what are the different steps to be followed in the proposal? They are being explained over here. The first one is the descriptive title of the study, what you want to do. Name of the authors and their background. Nature of the study. Hypothesis, if any, which has to be tested. Data. What data? What is the sources? What are the collection procedures? And what are the methods of, or what is the methodology for analysis? Equipment and facility required. Seventh one is schedule target dates for completing. Eighth one is likely product or tentative outline. Ninth, cost estimates. And the tenth one is bibliography. What are the categories of report? Report falls under three major categories. First one is information oriented, second one is decision oriented, and the third one is research oriented. As far as information reports are concerned, in describing any person, object, situation, or concept, the following seven questions, that is a combination of six W's and one H, helps to convey a comprehensive picture. As far as the subject part is concerned, we can consider who and to whom. Action, what, when, where, how. And the reason is why. So this is basically a combination of six W's and one H. Therefore, the comprehensiveness of information or descriptive report can be checked by iteratively asking who does what to whom, when, where, how, and why. Information reports are the first step to understanding the existing situation. For instance, business economic, technological, labor, market, or research scenario reports, or what has been discussed or decided, for instance, the minutes of a meeting, from the foundation of subsequent decision report and research reports. Decision reports adopt the following steps of the problem solving approach: identifying the problem, constructing the criteria, generating and evaluating the options, making a decision, or drawing up an action plan, or working out a contingency plan. Now, the problem is the beginning at the end of decision making. A start with a wrong problem, a wrong hypothesis, or a wrong assumption will only solve a non existing problem or create a new problem. In identifying the problem, identify the following elements: what is the situation and what should it be? What are the symptoms and what are the causes? What is the central issue? What are the subordinate issues? What are the decision areas? And what needs to be done immediately in the short term, medium term, or long term? Now, constructing the criteria to bring the existing situation to what it should be. Criteria or yardsticks are used to evaluate options. Criteria link the problem identification with the option, generation, and evaluation. In constructing the criteria, SWOT analysis, that is SWOT, which stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunity, and threat, is useful. Recognize the strengths and weaknesses of the decision maker and the organization, and the opportunities available and threats confronting the decision maker and the organization in a given situation. Generating and evaluating the options. In generating options, creativity is required. Sometimes the options are obvious, but one can look beyond the obvious. Once a set of options have been generated, they are shortlisted and ranked by priority or their probability of meeting the objectives identified in the problem definition. The presentation of evaluation is structured by criteria or options depending upon which structure is easy to understand. Now, making a decision. The decision or recommendation follows out the evaluation of the options, provided the thinking process has been logical so far. The recommendation should be an adequate response to the problem and implementable. Research reports. Research reports contribute to the growth of subject literature. They pave the way for new information, significant hypotheses, and innovative and rigorous methods of research and measurement. Now, process of evaluation starts. Reviewing the draft, what you have made. The report should be thoroughly reviewed and edited before the final report is submitted. The following questions will help you review the draft: author's purpose, reader's profile, content, language and tone, length, and its appearance. Author's purpose. The lack of clarity and explicitness in the communication purpose leads to two major problems. First, the confusion in determining the mix of content, languages and tone, length and looks, and the misinterpretation of the message. Reader's profile. The readership may consist of one or more persons or one or more groups. The major discriminating feature of the reader's profile are cultural, social, religious, ideological, educational, economic, and age. These are all the factors. Also pay attention to the reader's interest and familiarity with the subject and the language. Now, the content. Content is the crucial communication axle between the author and the reader. Attention should be given to the content's focus, its organization, the accuracy of the facts, and the logic of the arguments. Language and tone, since the purpose of communication is to make the reader understand the message, use the vocabulary and sentence structure which the reader understands. The terminology and the language structure of a subject specialist are not familiar to non specialists. The tone of the language also matters. It can make the reader receive, ignore, or reject the message. Executives have to differentiate and modulate the tone of writing to superiors, peers, and subordinates. Length. How long should the report be? This is a matter to be judged by the author, keeping in mind the purpose, the subject, and the reader's interest. Shorter the content, the more attractive it is to the reader. If the length does not match with the reader's interest and patience, the author has to rework and scale down the purpose, focus, or the content. Check the readability of paragraphs. As a thumb rule, paragraphs should not exceed 8 type lines. Now, these are the systems which are followed. Sentences should not exceed more than 3 type lines, and the punctuated pauses should not go over 2 type lines. Appearance. The novelty or presentation is as important as the originality of ideas. Both the products and creativity are critical. Presentation attracts the reader and the content holds their attention. Both the product and the package are equally important. Now, Unit 13, which is related to formats of reports. We have discussed the steps one should follow while writing a proposal for any type of report. The subject matter of various type of reports was also discussed. It was also explained as to how one should go before editing the draft of a report. Now, the next stage is understanding the formats of the report, which is the subject matter now. We will discuss the content of the cover and the title page. We can also understand what goes into the introductory pages, text, and reference section of the report. What are the parts of the report? Different parts of the report are the cover page and the title page, the front page. Next, second one is introductory pages, which includes forward, preface, acknowledgements, table of contents, list of tables and illustrations, summary. Third one is text, that is, which includes headings, quotations, footnotes, exhibits. Fourth one is reference section, which includes appendices, bibliography, glossary, if we look at. Now, we talk about the cover in the title page, that is the first page, which should have the information such as the title of the subject or project, presented to whom, on what date, for what was the purpose, and it is written by whom. If there is any restriction or the circulation of the report, it is indicated as, for example, for official use only. It is written on the top right corner of the cover and the title page. Introductory pages. The introductory pages are given lower case Roman numerals, that, for example, 1 to 3. Arabic numerals, for example, this 1 to 3, are used from the first page of the introduction. The introductory pages contain the following: forward, preface, acknowledgement, table of contents, list of tables and illustrations, and summary. Forward. The first page of the forward is not numbered, but it is counted among the introductory pages. Usually, a forward is one page or even shorter. A forward is written by someone other than the author. It is written by an authority on the subject or the sponsor of the research or the book and introduces the author and the work to the reader. At the end of the foreword, the writer's name appears on the right side, and on the left side, the address and place of writing the foreword and date appears. Name, address, place, and date are put in italics. That is what Second thing is preface. The first page of the preface is not numbered, but it is counted among the introductory pages. The preface is written by the author to indicate how the subject was chosen, its importance and need, and the focus of the book's content, purpose, and audience. At the end of the preface, the author's name is given on the right side. On the left side, the address and the place of writing the preface and the date appears. Name, address, place, and date are put in italics. Acknowledgement. If the acknowledgement section is short, it is treated as the part of the preface. If it is long, it is put on a separate section. The first page of the acknowledgement is not numbered, but it is counted among the introductory pages. Subsequent pages of the acknowledgement are numbered in lower case Roman numerals. At the end of the acknowledgement, only the author's name appears in italics in the right-hand corner. Now we move to table of contents. In writing the table of contents, great care has to be taken. The content sheet is both a summary and a guide to the various segments of the book. The table of contents should cover all the essential parts of the book and yet to be brief enough to be clear and attractive. The heading, table of the content or contents in all capital letters appears on the top. On the left side, the foreword, preface, acknowledgement, and numbers and titles of the section, chapters, center head, center subhead, and side heads are listed. On the right side, the corresponding page numbers are given. These page numbers are aligned on the right. At the end of the heading of the text, references to appendices, bibliography, glossary, and index appears. These references are put in all capital letters on the margin. List of tables and illustration formats of report. List of tables and illustrations follow the table of content. Each list starts on a separate page. If the items in each list are few, both the lists are posted on the same page but under different headings. The heading of these lists may be in all capital letters. List of the tables, list of the illustrations, tables or illustrations. And they follow the format of the heading that is used on the contents page. That is the table of contents or contents. They are all bold and capital. Our report invariably carries an abstract or an executive summary in the initial pages as a help to the page reader or executive. The summary is positioned immediately before or after the content sheet. The summary and the contents together provide an overview to the reader, and the length of the summary may vary from 100 to 1000 words. Text. The subject matter of the text is divided into the following four headings. First one is headings, second one is quotations, third one is footnotes, and the fourth one is exhibits. Headings. The following type of headings are covered. Center head, all caps without underline. Center subhead, caps and lowercase underline. Side head, all caps without underlining. Side head, caps and lowercase underline. Paragraph head followed by a colon, caps and lowercase underline. So these are how the headings are presented. Center head, a center head is typed in all capital letters. It is the title. If the title is long, the inverted pyramid style. That is, the second line shorter than the first, and the third line shorter the second is used. All caps headings are not underlined. Underlining is unnecessary because capital letters are enough to attract the reader's attention. You can see what this pyramid-like style is. Chalking out a program for important substitution and export promotion. This is a paragraph. First line, a second line shorter, and the third line shorter than the second. Center subheads. The first letter of the first and the last word, and all nouns, adjectives, verbs, and adverbs in the title are capitalized. Articles, preposition, and conjunctions are not capitalized. Now changing over, chalking out a program for important substitutions and export promotion. Side heads. Words in the side heads are either written in all capitals or capitalized, as in the center subhead and underline. Important substitution and export promotion. This is how it is written. Paragraph head. Words in the paragraph heads are capitalized as in the center subhead and underline. At the end, a colon appears and then the paragraph starts. Important substitution and export promotion colon. The seventh five-year plan of India has attempted. But this is how it is presented. Quotations. Quotations marked double inverted marks are used. A quotation within a quotation is put in single quotation marks. For example, he said, to the selfish, freedom is synonymous with license. When to use quotation marks? Quotation marks are used for a directly quoted message or word, a word or phrase to the emphasize, and the title of articles, chapters, sections of a book, report, and unpublished work. How to quote? All quotations should correspond exactly to the original in word, spelling, and punctuation. Quotations up to three typewritten lines are run into the text. Direct quotations over the three typewritten lines are set in indented paragraphs. Footnotes. Type of footnotes. A footnote either indicates the source of the reference or provides the explanation which is not important enough to be included in the text. In the traditional system, both kind of footnotes are treated in the same form and are included either at the bottom of the page or at the end of the book or chapter. In the modern system, explanatory footnotes are put at the bottom of the page and are linked with the text with the numbers. But source references are incorporated within the text and are supplemented by a bibliographical note at the end of the chapter or rationale of footnotes. Footnotes help the reader to check the accuracy of the interpretation of the source by going to the source if they want to. They are also an acknowledgement of the author's indebtedness to the sources. Where to put footnote? Footnote appears at the bottom of the page or at the end of the chapter or report, before the appendices section. Footnotes at the bottom of the page. After the last line of the text, 3 spaces are given and 15 space line is used drawn to separate the footnote from the text. When 3 spaces are given, the first footnote is typed. Each footnote is typed in a single space. Between the 2 footnotes, 2 spaces are given. The first line of each footnote is indented. Footnote should not overflow from one page to another. That means that information has to be placed at the bottom in such a form that the page does not change. Fourth one is exhibits, which includes tables, References and interpretations. Before a table is introduced, it is referred to the text. For example, see table 1.1. Refer to table 1.1 or as in table or table 1.1 indicates. A table is meant only to expand, clarify, or give a visual explanation rather than stand by itself. The text should highlight the table's focus and conclusions. An example of a good match between the text and the table is quoted below from Anne Ascenti Fields of Applied Psychology, New York, McGraw-Hill Book Company, 1964, page 146. This is how it is presented. Identification. Each table is given a number title and, if needed, a subtitle. All identifications are centered. Arabic numerals used instead of Roman numerals or capital letters are recommended for numbering the tables. Usually, technical monographs and book contains many tables. For the title and subtitle, all capital letters are used. Abbreviations and symbols are not used in the title or subtitle. Body. Column headings are typed vertically, and abbreviations are used as space symbols. If uncommon abbreviations are used, they are explained in footnotes. The main word of the column reading are capitalized and underlined if column rules are not used. Identification of measurement units, that is rupees, dollars, are put in column headings. Column numbers are usually avoided. Column rules. Column rules are used only if they increase legibility. The white space between columns is sufficient to act as a divider. References. Immediately after the table, the source of the table is indicated. After the sources, abbreviations and symbols are explained. Then the footnotes to the table are given. This is a sequence which has to be followed. Paper. If the table occupies more than 1.5 space of the page, it is typed on a separate sheet. Tables are usually typed lengthwise. If the table is typed widthwise, the top of the table will be given on the binding inside. Continuation page. If the table is continued on the second page, only the identification mark table, that is 1.1, continued is enough. There is no need to repeat the title and the subtitle. On the continuation page, column and row captions are repeated to facilitate quick reference. Checklist. Relevance, accuracy, and clarity are of utmost importance in tables. When entering the table, check the following. Have the explanation and reference to the table be given in the text. It is essential to have a table for clarity and extra information. Is the presentation of the data comprehensive and understandable? Illustrations. Illustrations cover charts, graphs, diagrams, and maps. Most of the illustrations given for tables hold good for illustrations. Identification. Illustrations are identified as figure, chart, map, or diagram. The identification mark, that is the number title, and if any, subtitle, are put at the bottom because an illustration, unlike a table, is studied from the bottom upwards. Reference section. This section follows the text. First comes the appendices section, then the bibliography, and then glossary. Each section is separated by a divider page on which only the word appendices, bibliography, or glossary in all capital letter appears. All reference section pages are numbered in Arabic numericals in continuation with the page number of the text. Appendices. What goes into the appendices? Supplementary or secondary references are put in the appendices section, but all primary reference material of immediate importance to the reader is incorporated in the text. The material that is usually put in the appendices is indicated below. Original data, long tables, long quotations, supportive legal decisions, laws and documents, questionnaire and letters, schedules or forms used in collecting data, case studies, histories, transcript of interviews, numbering of appendices. The appendices can be serialized with capital letters, Appendix A, Appendix B, to differentiate from the chapter or the table number. References to appendices. In the text, the reader's attention is drawn to the appendices as in the case of tables. All appendices are listed in the table of contents. Bibliographies. Positioning of bibliography. The bibliography comes from the appendices section and is separated from it by a division sheet written bibliography. It is listed as a major section in all capital letters in the table of content. A bibliography contains the source of every reference cited in the footnote and any other relevant work that the author has consulted. Bibliographical information. We talk about what the information we get. If we talk about the books, the author, title, place of publication. And if it is in case of magazines and newspaper, it is the author, what is the title, which has to be placed in quotation marks. Title of the magazine underlined. If you talk about publishers, date of publication, number of pages. And in magazine, we continue volume number, that is Roman numerals, serial number, Arabic numerals, date of issue, normal, and page number of the article from where it has been drawn or where has been consulted. Type of bibliographies. The title of a bibliography should indicate what type of items are listed. Some common varieties of bibliographies are: number one, bibliography of works cited. List only those items which have been preferred or referred to the text. Selected bibliography. This contains only those items which the author thinks are of primary interest to the reader and indicates the criteria used for selecting the items. Annotated bibliography. This gives a brief description of each item to help the reader to find out the usefulness of the book. What is the difference between bibliography and foot entries? The format of bibliography and foot entry differs in the following respect. In a bibliography, the first line of an item begins at the left margin and the subsequent lines are indented. But in footnote, the first line is indented and the subsequent lines of the item begin at the left margin. This is the basic difference. In a bibliography, the last name of the author is given first, that is Kumar Arvind. But in footnote, the first name is given as Arvind Kumar. Punctuation marks in bibliography and in footnotes are different. Now, how to make a bibliography formats of report? Solution to some of the difficulties commonly faced in writing a bibliography are given. When the bibliography is long, items are classified for easy reference according to format like books, periodicals, and newspapers, subject or theme, or chronological order. If the name of the author is not given, the title of the book or the article appears A and E in the beginning of the article title are ignored for determining the alphabetical order. However, the article appears in the listing if it is a part of the title. An author's work written in collaboration with others are listed after the work which he has written alone. If there are more than three authors, the symbol ETAL is used after the first author's name and others' names are omitted. You might have seen this written somewhere. If two or more works of an author are listed, the author's name is written for the first time And for subsequent items, a 10 space line is given where the author's name should appear. Within the work of an author, the order is determined by the alphabetical of the title of the work or the date of the publication. You can see over here how footnote or endnotes are written. Name, Guide to Academic Writing, within parentheses, New York, academic publication, year of publication, and on which pages it is given. And if we talk about the bibliography reference, name, passage, Guide to Academic Writing, country, academic publication, and year. No page, no parentheses. Glossary. What is glossary? A glossary is a short dictionary giving definition and examples of terms and phrases which are technical, used in a special connotation by the author, unfamiliar to the reader, or foreign to the language in which the book is written. It is listed as a major section in all capital letters in the table of contents. Positioning of glossary. The glossary appears after the bibliography. It may also appear in the introductory pages of a book after the list of tables and illustrations. Order of listing. Items are listed in alphabetical and normal order. Center heading is lasted under C and not under H. Typing instructions. For typing a report, the following should be kept in mind. Paper, quarto size, white, thick, unrolled paper is used for manuscripts. Typing is done on only one side of the paper. Margins. The following margins have to be followed. On the left side, it should be 1.5 inch, and on the right, it should be 1 inch. From top, 1 inch. But on the first page of every major division, that is the beginning of a chapter, gives 3 inch space at the top. Uniform margin, keeping the transcript look neat. Indentation. The first line of a regular paragraph is indented 5 spaces from the margin. If lines in an indented paragraph are indented 5 spaces from the margin, but the first line of the indented paragraph, if it has a paragraph beginning, is indented 10 spaces from the margin. Spacing between the line. The whole manuscript is typed in double space, except indented paragraphs, tables, and footnotes, which are usually in single space. Wherever single space is used, double space is given between the paragraph and the set of the items. Triple space is given one before a paragraph head and before and after a center head, center subhead, side head, indented paragraph, or tables. Spacing within a sentence. Between words, 1 space. After a semicolon, 2 space. After a colon, 2 space. After a comma, 1 space. After a full stop, 2 spaces before the first. And in the parentheses, 1 space. But this is the format which has to be followed. No space is given in the following cases: between the last letter and the comma, semicolon, colon, exclamation mark, question mark, between the first quotation mark and the following word, between the last quotation mark and the last quoted word or punctuation, and between the dash and the word preceding or following it. Copy reading. The copy reader symbols are used for instructing the typist or secretary, but the proofreading symbols are used for instructing the printer. Some symbols are common, but the symbols for proofreading are more than for a copy reading. What is proofreading? What are the different types of proofs? Usually the printer sends galley proofs, also known as first proof, page proofs, and endeavors proof, wherever photograph or other illustrations are involved. If required, revised proofs at any stage are sent. The galley proof is one which is not divided into pages, Galleys, the short name of the galley proofs, are in single column set in the line width of the text and sometimes as long as 24 inches. How to proofread? A group proofread has an accuracy to pinpoint all the mistakes, clarity in giving instructions to the printer, and speed for meeting the printer's deadline. Correction marks are indicated as two places within the line where the correction is to be carried out and in the margin against the corresponding line giving the instructions. Instructions are never given at the place of correction. The printer only goes through the margins and never reads through the proof. If the instruction is not in the margin, the printer will miss it. To catch as many errors as possible, proof may be read 4 times as follows. Ask another person to read the copy aloud while you go through the proofs. Read the proof alone without somebody reading from the copy. Check all the headings and the subheadings. Check all the cross references. Proofs are meant to be corrected but not edited. Additions and deletions at the proof stage, commonly known as author's alteration, are time consuming and very expensive. The cost of making these alterations are passed on to the authors. Returning the proofs. Proof must be returned to the printer according to the agreed schedule. The delay in author's part upset the scheduling of the machines and other operations of the printer and the publisher. The manuscript is also written with the proofs. The printer uses the manuscript for its checking and record in case any suit of damages is filed. The manuscript becomes the property of the printer. The author can use the duplicate of the manuscript for correcting. Then the printer need not send the original copy back and forth. These are the basic symbols which are normally used while communicating your instruction to the printer. Now, presentation of the report, that is Unit 14. The presentation has become an important communication medium in organizations because a report is understood better if it is accompanied by a presentation. The reader can enter into a dialogue with the authors of the report to share the thinking process that the authors has gone through in writing the report. Therefore, the manager is expected to have as much as facility in presentation as he is expected to have in the report writing. Presentation skill includes the ability to mix in the right proportion various elements of communication dimensions, presentation package, and use of audio-visual aid to achieve the given purpose with an audience. Communication dimensions. The major element of the communication dimensions which are relevant to a presentation are purpose, audience, media, message, time, place, and cost. While preparing the presentation, the presenter has to ask searching questions to understand each of the above mentioned dimensions of communication and find the right mix to serve his purpose. This process makes the presentation both a science and an art. What is the purpose? The first step is to think through the purpose of the presentation and to focus it sharply. The presenter can try to achieve a variety of purpose. Some instances of presentation purposes are informing, selling, exploring, decision making, and persuading. Depending on the purpose, the element of the communication mix, presentation, package, and audio-video aid have to be adjusted to get the right effect. The second part is audience. In presentation, multiple audiences interact at the same time. The sender and the receiver of the message keeps changing roles through clarification, queries, questions and answer, dialogues and discussions. The audience interest can held on its presenters focuses on issues of their immediate interest and allows them to participate in understanding the information. With this, we conclude today's sessions.